Welcome to the Empowerment Hour, a podcast dedicated to the woman ready to take charge of her life, live in her purpose, and be unapologetically authentic. I am your host, Nancy Ruffin, award-winning author, mommypreneur, and the self-proclaimed Latina Oprah who is dedicated to helping women unleash their power, discover their purpose, and live up to their fullest potential. My goal is to empower you, inspire you, and help you unlock your passions and discover your purpose so that you live the most fulfilled and impassioned life. If you're ready to make a change and start living on purpose, then you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Empowerment Hour podcast. It's your girl, Nancy Ruffin, and I'm super excited to be back, guys. I know it's been about 2 weeks since you had a new episode, and my apologies for that. I've just been super busy, and last week I was just really, really exhausted. And for those of you who follow me and follow my work, know I am really big on self-care and on giving ourselves the opportunity to just rest when we need it. And that was what happened to me last week. I was just really, really tired. We finally put together the Female Collaborative event that we had been planning for 2 months. And it was exhausting. We had a 2-day event, Friday and Saturday. And by Sunday, I was just beat. I had nothing left in me to give. So I decided to take, the week off. But I am back now. And I have, just some really great content that I'm going to be sharing with you. First, though, I want to shout out to all of my Boricuas who headed down to Washington, D.C. today for the Unity March. And if you guys have not been following the movement, our fellow Boricuas went down to Capitol Hill because we're marching for, to ban, the Jones Act. We're marching for how the federal government, their response and how they handled Hurricane Maria, how they're still handling what's happening there. A majority of the island is still without electricity. It is still struggling to make ends meet, to get the bare necessities like food and water and toiletries and just things that we all here take for granted. So thank you to everyone who trekked it out to DC to make our voices heard. On another note, though, I hope you all are getting prepared for the Thanksgiving holiday. Yes, Thanksgiving is this Thursday, and I can't even believe that we are celebrating Thanksgiving already. I feel like the year just started, but it's like ending now. I mean, am I the only one that feels like the time is just going by way too fast? Like, I feel we were just in May and I was celebrating my 40th birthday in Mexico under the warm sun, surrounded by my loved ones. And yet here we are, a few days away from Thanksgiving. I would love to hear what you guys are getting into this Thanksgiving holiday. So feel free to drop me a message or a note or something and let me know what you guys are getting into. I'm going to probably have Thanksgiving at home like I have done, I don't know, for the past 5 years. Yeah, the past 5 years. Because I remember our first Thanksgiving here at my house was when I gave birth to my oldest daughter and she's 5. And since then, we've been having Thanksgiving dinner here. So my in-laws come over, my parents come over, my husband's aunt sometimes spends Thanksgiving with us. And then my sister and her family usually join us for Thanksgiving dessert because they spend the Thanksgiving holiday with my brother-in-law and his family. But it's always great to get the family together and really just give thanks for the gift a family, for being able to be in each other's presence and just thank God for all of the blessings that He has bestowed upon us for the year, for our health and for our homes and for providing a means for us to support our family. For me, Thanksgiving are those things. Just being able to be with family and be in gratitude and just take a second to acknowledge all of the amazing things that we have, and not material things, but just those things that you can't quantify, right? Just being surrounded by love. Um, so I wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving. And lastly, before I get into tonight's topic, I just quickly want to mention my vision board workshop happening January 7th at Mott Haven Bar and Grill. Unfortunately, or I guess unfortunately for you all if you haven't got a ticket, but fortunately for me, we have sold out of our general admission tickets. So yay! Thank you guys for purchasing the ticket. I think this was probably the quickest I sold out of my vision board event. In less than 2 days, all of those tickets were gone. I do still have the VIP tickets, which if you're interested in that, you can purchase. I think though that we only have 3 of those tickets left. And head over to the site, the website, so that you can see what that VIP ticket includes. It's a good value, guys. So head over to www.manifestthevision2018.eventbrite.com. Check out what that package includes. And if you're someone who needs to be accountable to somebody, then that package is probably great for you, because I'm offering a 60-minute either telephone call, Zoom call, or FaceTime call where we kind of follow up on where you're at. We review your action plan, and we really make sure that you're staying on track with what you said you wanted to accomplish. And I'm offering either, it's your choice, a 60-minute call or 2 30-minute calls, and we will schedule those on a date that's compatible for both you and I. So head over to the site. You can read more. There's more stuff that I include with the VIP ticket, so check that out. But on a brighter note, because we sold out of that event so quickly, I am adding a second workshop at the request of many women who have messaged me and asked me to include a second day because they got shut out of the first. So right now, that date is February 3rd. I'm still working on finalizing the venue, the location, but save the date because I will be doing that this week, and I will be posting the link to register and purchase tickets. All right, so now that we got all of that stuff out of the way, this week I really wanted to talk about self-awareness, and I know I've talked about this on previous episodes of the podcast, but I want to shift the conversation a little bit to focus on what being self-aware really means and how we really have to work on ourselves from the inside out before we can really manifest any of those things that we say that we want in our lives, right? So I'm going to start off by asking you guys a question. And I want you to think about this for a second, and even maybe get out your journals or get out a sheet of paper and pen, and maybe after you listen to the podcast, reflect on this question. Who are you? At your core, do you know who you are? Do you know what drives your behaviors? Do you know why you do what you do? Again, I'm going to ask this question one more time. Who are you? I want you to reflect on these questions that I just asked, And I want you to really think about the things that drive how you act, how you behave, how you respond to certain situations, or when you're put in compromising situations. What is your initial reaction? What How do you react without even thinking about it? Right? And so all of that stems from somewhere. It stems from your past. It stems from your childhood. And it's important to understand why we react this way if we have any hope to change any of those behaviors for the better. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this week is because at the Female Collaborative event, this was something that I wanted to touch upon. And because of the time constraints, I wasn't really able to get into too much detail or get really into what drives our behavior. And we started off the event with the topic of self-awareness, because until you know and understand what drives your behavior and your decision making, you're never going to be able to reach your maximum potential. And that is irrespective of whether it's in business or just in life in general, because who we are at our core manifests in every part of our lives. So it's going to appear in our everyday lives, and it's going to appear in how we conduct business, and I think that there's this misconception, especially for women, that we have to have it all together all the time. And I want you guys to understand that we don't. We are allowed to mess up. We are allowed to not know all the answers all the time. We're allowed to be a work in progress while understanding that we have to work to progress. So I want to repeat that. We, you, and me are allowed to be a work in progress while understanding that we have to work to progress. And what I mean by that is that we can't just sit in our mess or in our struggle or in our current situation and think that our lives are going to miraculously change until we take a long, hard look at ourselves, at our personalities, at our past, at our childhood, and even our family dynamics, and all of the experiences that have brought us to where we are today, and really begin digging through all that shit. We're not going to change our lives. And not saying that we need to change, because there very well may be individuals out there who are completely content with their lives and where they are at this present moment. But for those of us, or those of you who want to change, you have to be aware of the things that have contributed to your present state, because how we feel about ourselves on the inside manifests into our external world. All right, so it's no secret that if you're feeling depressed or sad, unhappy, you have feelings of unworthiness, right? All of that is going to show up in how you show up in the world, and how you interact with other people, and how you perform your daily functions, and how you perform, at work, and all of these things. And I wanted to just talk briefly about how, as individuals, we spend years and thousands of dollars, for example, going to school, getting certifications, investing in ourselves, to get the titles and the diplomas and the degrees, right? So that we can make ourselves more marketable and more attractive to prospective employers or clients, or whatever. But very few of us invest as much time or money into figuring out who we are and why we do the things we do. Many of us believe if we work hard at getting the external things like the big paycheck or the big home or the fancy cars, shoes, bags, whatever, that we're going to be happy. But the truth is that none of those things bring us happiness, right? Because at the end of the day, you can have all of that and still be unhappy, still feel unfulfilled, still be miserable, still be just wallowing in your shit, because all of that material stuff is not going to fill that void, right, that you have within you. Because all that really does is bring a false sense of comfort. So for that moment, the moment that you get that big paycheck, or you can be sitting inside your beautiful luxurious home, or that minute that you purchase those expensive shoes or that fancy bag, you're going to feel great in that moment. But then once that feeling goes away, you're still going to be left with your shit, right? So it's important to understand that if you want to attain true happiness, purpose, and fulfillment, then you have to work from the inside out. And not many of us do that. That's why it's easy to see someone who's doing great and may be living great and may really be truly happy, but we don't know what that person went through to get to that spot, right? I mean, I know from my own personal experience, and I think I'm going to probably take it back to the beginning with this, because it's important, I guess, to give you guys a better picture as to how I am, or how I've gotten to where I am today. Because I will tell you that I really am happy. Where I am happy with where my life is at this very moment. There is nothing at this present time that I want that I do not have. I have an amazing family. My children and my husband bring me the most joy I've ever experienced in life. We are all healthy. I wake up every morning grateful to be alive and just happy that I can do work that fulfills me, that helps others, that makes me proud. I mean, I don't even understand how I can be this happy. Or rather, I can, because I worked really hard to get to this point. And I will tell you that there was a time when I wasn't this happy, where I was depressed, where I felt like I wasn't worthy, where I felt like everything in my life was just going wrong. My marriage was in shambles. I was struggling to conceive. No matter what I did, I felt like it wasn't enough, like I wasn't enough. But something happens, right? And for me, it happened when I was trying to conceive and it wasn't happening. And I realized that even though I was trying and I was doing everything that I could have humanly done to facilitate the process of getting pregnant, none of that was working because of what was happening inside of me and what was happening within. And within, I was doubtful and I was not faithful. And even though I was saying that I wanted to be a mom, I wasn't believing that it was possible for me. I was resentful. My husband and I weren't getting along. I mean, it was all of these things that were happening simultaneously. And in 2010, I met this woman on Facebook who completely changed my life. And this is why I'm so passionate about forging, real relationships with people that you meet online. And not saying that everyone you have to be best friends with, but it's important to make those connections and get to know people. But anyway, I met this woman on Facebook. And we were just connected, via social media, and, we would interact and we would comment on each other's posts and just the normal things that you do with someone that you don't know personally. And at the end of 2010, the very beginning of 2011, she had posted that she was going to be hosting this workshop / retreat in her home. And apparently she attended this retreat every year that was facilitated by this other woman by the name of Gloria Rodriguez. But that year she missed the Visiones retreat. And because it was so important to her, her name is Alicia. Alicia reached out to Gloria and asked her if she would be willing to facilitate the event just for her. But Gloria was like, nah, son, I can't do it just for you. But if you can get, a group of women to come to your home, then I will come to your home and I will facilitate the workshop. So she had put this call out, and the way the event was described was, letting go of all of the negativity from 2010, just releasing everything that wasn't serving you and stepping into the new year feeling whole and refreshed and starting anew. And so I don't know what propelled me to want to do this, but I was at that point in my life where I felt like, shit, I don't know what else to do. So let me just go to this, right? I mean, what's the worst that could happen? And so I reached out to her and I said that, that I wanted to come. And so I showed up to her apartment one Saturday morning. I think I want to say that the date was January 21st, 2011. I would have to research it to make sure that was the correct date. But anyway, it was a Saturday morning. The year was 2011. And I showed up to this apartment in Harlem. I don't know what the hell made me go, because I didn't know this woman from Jack. I didn't know anyone. I was just going up to a random person's house in Harlem. How crazy. How crazy is that? But for that moment, I put my trust in God and in the universe, and I was just open. And I walked up the 4 flights of stairs to her apartment, and there were, I want to say, probably between 10 to 15 women in the apartment, and I didn't know any of them. So I showed up to a retreat or a workshop with people. I had no idea what I was showing up to. They could have been freaking killing chickens in this apartment, and I had no idea. But I showed up there, and we spent a lot of the day just meditating and journaling and really digging into ourselves and into who we are, and really reflecting on our past experiences and all of the things that had happened to us up to that point that got us in that room. And so one of the exercises that Gloria had us do was partner with a woman, and we were supposed to verbalize, put out into the universe the thing we wanted most to manifest for us in that year. And up until that point, I had been very private about my desire to be a mother, because I was ashamed and I was embarrassed that I had been married for 10 years and it had never happened for us. And no one really knew of my struggle up until that point. I mean, no one aside from like my closest family members. And so even as I sat in that room and I partnered with this beautiful curly-haired woman, I refused to verbalize that because I was embarrassed. And so instead, what I had decided I was going to share was that I wanted to publish my first book that year. And so we partner up, and I tell her, I'm like, okay, you can share first, and I'll share second. And so we're standing there, we're holding hands, and we're looking into each other's eyes. And she looks at me and she says, for 2011, my heart's deepest desire is to become a mother. And guys, when I tell you that in that moment, everything that I had been holding inside just flooded out of me. I mean, my eyes began to swell with tears and I just couldn't control them. I started crying. And this woman is looking at me like, what? Why are you crying, you weirdo? Like, why are you crying at my dream and at my desire? But what was happening for me was that she was my mirror. And I don't believe in coincidences because it was very purposeful that her and I, out of all the women in that room, were partnered together. For me, it was God saying to me, you can't run away from what you want. That's it. I'm putting it in front of you because I'm forcing you to look at it. And that was what happened. And when I shared with her what was happening with me, we just immediately became connected. And so after that retreat, because there was still so much work to be done, there was a handful of women who wanted to continue with that self-work. And so Gloria created for the very first time the Visioneras. And what that was a kind of like a support group for women where we met every single week and we worked through our shit together. And we faced all of those demons and all of those things that we've tried to hide from others and from ourselves, and we faced it, and we faced our childhood, and we faced all of the things that had happened to us up to that point that made us who we were. And I will tell you that year in May, I got pregnant for the very first time in my life ever. And I can't even begin to explain to you guys how transformative that was for me, how happy I was to know that there was another life being created inside of me, living inside of me. And so I shared that news with everyone as soon as I learned that I was pregnant. But then what happened was that I ended up going for my prenatal appointment and everything was great. There was a heartbeat and, everything was fine. But when I went back for, I think it was the 10-week appointment, there was no heartbeat. And the doctor told me that I was going to miscarry, that it was inevitable. And he asked my husband and I if we wanted him to perform a DNC. And that is when they, in essence, just go inside of you and suck the dead fetus, or the dead embryo out of you. But I was in such denial that I refused. And I was like, no way, like God created this miracle inside me. I had never been pregnant. So like, I just didn't want to believe what he was telling me. Like, I could not believe that God would bless me with the thing that I wanted the most. And then just like that, snatch it out of my arms, because that is exactly what that felt like. And so I said no. I told the doctor, no, if this is meant to be, if this is God's will that I'm going to miscarry, then I'm going to allow it to happen on its own. And a couple of weeks it did. I miscarried that first pregnancy and I was devastated and I was heartbroken and I was angry and resentful and I just didn't want to continue. I didn't want to try anymore. I had given up hope. And then something happened. I realized that nagging feeling inside to be a mother was not going away. It was still there. So even though in my mind I had decided that I no longer wanted it, my heart was saying something different. And so after a couple of months of letting my body heal itself, my husband and I tried again. And this time, through the support of my visionera sisters, they really helped get me through that difficult time, because I felt so unworthy and I had just lost so much hope. But it was with working with them and continuing to do my own inner self work that I was able to overcome that and regain my trust and faith in God. And I will tell you guys that in November of that same year, I got pregnant again with my beautiful baby girl, Avery. And so this woman who had never been pregnant ever in her life got pregnant twice in the same year, 5 months apart. And I can only credit that to all of the work that I was doing with myself and how I was showing up for myself and in the world, and the trust and the faith that I gave in God. And He was giving me everything that I was saying that I wanted, but only after I dealt with my shit. So this is why I stress that it's so important to heal yourself from the inside, because until you do that, you won't have the life that you want or the life that you deserve. You have to be willing to do the hard work so that you can live the good life. Everyone wants the success and the happiness and the flashiness and all of that, but nobody wants to dig deep. They don't want to get their hands dirty. You don't want to go through the dirt that you have to go through to heal and get better. And I say that because a lot of times we see people they're recycling their experiences, right? They have sucky relationships. They choose the same type of men that dishonor them, that cheat on them, that don't treat them well, that disrespect them. And they let go of that man and find a new man, but it's the same kind of man doing the same kind of things. And that's no coincidence. They're choosing the same kind of man because something in their past, in their childhood, has taught them that that's what love looks like, right? Maybe they're used to being abandoned because they were abandoned as children. So now when they're looking or seeking out partners, they're choosing men that are aligned with what the experiences have taught them about love. We react to certain situations and to certain people based on how we were raised, based on what we believe about ourselves. And so that's why, guys, you have to be willing to do the hard work. You have to be willing to look within before you can manifest that into your life. So that's why, I wanted to share that with you guys this week. I want you to ask yourselves a few questions as you reflect on who you are and on what drives your behaviors. I also want you to ask yourself, what motivates you? Really, when you decide to do something, what is the driving factor behind that? Is it because you want to be of service? Is it money that motivates you? Is it recognition? Is it power? You have to understand what motivates you. And once you understand that, ask yourself, where is that coming from? What in your childhood, what in your past has added or contributed to those feelings? Also, how do you handle success and failure? Are you someone who values success so much that you're willing to do anything within your power to succeed? Or is the journey and the lessons that you learn on the road to success more valuable to you than actually achieving the success? How do you handle failure? Do you beat yourself up? Do you believe that failure is a reflection of you as a person? Or do you view failure as an opportunity to learn, as a lesson? Right? These are all things I want you to think about. How do you manage your emotions? How do you deal with anger, with sadness, with happiness, betrayal? What do those emotions bring out in you? And lastly, how do you view yourself? If you were to step outside of your body and just look at yourself, what do you see? Now, the answers to all of these questions will be rooted in your level of self-awareness and how well you know yourself. Many of us, when asked why we behave a certain way, will usually reply by saying, "That's just the way I am." But the truth is, there is a reason we are who we are. Now, some of it has to do with our DNA and our predisposed personality, but a lot also comes from our beliefs, our values, our experiences, and our interactions with others. So this week, I'm challenging you to raise your level of self-awareness. I look forward to hearing your feedback. I would love to know if this was helpful to you, if you discovered something about yourself that you didn't realize. Please shoot me a DM, an email, anything. I really want to know. And until next time, mi gente, have a very happy Thanksgiving with your loved ones, and make sure you go out there and crush some goals.